Okay, so now we're live. Welcome everyone to the second Espresso Talks, and I'll just let you guys go ahead. John, do you want to go first?
Yeah,
Awesome.
totally.
All right, take it away.
All right, let me find myself. Not in an existential way. Do you guys see my screen? I see myself in my Hangout that I have my screen on, so I'll go with yes. So I'm going to talk about Cow, which is my serverless CMS. And we're going to be jumping out of the presentation probably quite a bit. So first thing, for the first slide, I'm going to jump out of the presentation and go to GitHub, where we can see some of the stuff about Cow, documentation, that kind of thing. So Cow is a CMS that's written primarily in Python and uses Django. It uses another pretty sweet thing called Zappa, which is a serverless framework that leverages AWS Lambda and a few other cool things. So API Gateway to route your requests and all that kind of thing. So Cow's primarily right now, at least as far as my use case, it's for powering mobile applications for just side stuff where you don't have consumer web clients consuming this data. Okay, so it's going to be really ugly on the web side, but it has an API that the mobile clients will consume. And you could potentially do this directly through Lambda as well to avoid the web aspect, but there's a REST aspect to it as well, if you wish. So yeah, here it is. Here's some docs. You can kind of see it's just really light on everything. Yeah, so that's it. And Zappa just makes it really easy. So normally you could have a Lambda thingy and wire up your own Lambda, wire up your own API gateway. And then API gateway is like kind of a little bit of effort to wire all that stuff up. So Zappa just makes that really easy and really graceful. And you can go, it's like miserloo/Zappa if you want to look at that. There's some really great, really simple examples. And we'll see how this will be really simple here in a second. I'll like pretend present for like 1 second that this is up. So I made another thing called, if you guys are familiar with Cookie Cutter is a thing that can take a templated project as like a base project, and you can run it against this template, and it'll ask you a few things from a questionnaire to populate your template. So I made a cookie cutter for Cow so that we can go ahead and make ourselves a project really fast. So I'm going to do that right now. And I'm just going to be copying and pasting all this stuff like directly into the console right now. I already have, of course, I already have Cookie Cutter installed, so I'll skip that because I'm lazy mode. Cow hide. So this is asking a few questions. That's just, hey, what are the kind of attributes that we're going to put in your project? And we'll put this in like settings files and that kind of thing so that you can deploy hopefully quickly. The only gotcha here, so I had it for a while. You might see this text file over here, T-time credentials, for a database. So this is a trick with serverless stuff that it's a little trickier with a database because you don't want it running on the client. And for all use cases, pretty much everybody will want something like Postgres or an actual relational database on AWS or wherever. And so you're going to put that information here. But for this, I didn't think of a cool way to not show you guys all my credentials. And they are here all like verbosely. You could read them and copy them and like ruin my life. But I'm just going to not do that. And I'll show it to you locally, and we will connect to it, but I will not like actually connect to the production database right this second. I thought about like bringing it down like really fast, but you guys are too ninja that I was just gonna skip that. So this is the database name and all this stuff for Postgres, assuming you would use that, and we'll see where that generates the project. So now we'll see, did I call it cowhide? So we're gonna go into cowhide. And just see some of what it made. So first we're going to check out the settings file. This is all that Zappa needs to deploy the project. This is everything. I'm just going to let that sink in for like 1 second. This is everything that needs to run the command to get everything. So now I'm just going to continue to follow the README stuff. So it says we're gonna make a virtual environment, we're gonna source it, and we're gonna install some stuff. Normally for Django, usually my trigger between Flask, which is a tiny little web framework for Python, and Django, which includes lots of ORM stuff and good that kind of thing. Usually my differentiator is, do we need a database? And since I do need a database here, that's why I went with Django. I have a lot of Flasky things, which is great with Zappa as well. But this is database related, and we're not going to do that right this second. Yes, I'm deciding if we're really not going to do that right this second. We're not going to do that right this second. I'm going to go ahead and run the command. So we did this stuff. We installed the requirements. We're going to go ahead and deploy and see what happens. I don't actually remember. It's been like a month since I looked at this last, and we'll see. In this thing, I actually said, hey, we're going to time it, and we're going to hook up all the database stuff. And I had some ridiculous time limit, like it's a race. Like we're going to have it in prod in like 2 seconds, but we're not going to do that because I'm lazy. So it's building the package that's going up to S3 right now. It's building the CloudFront template that AWS ingests to produce all this stuff like API Gateway, Lambda, all that stuff. It's making, still the actual stack to do that. And then soon it'll spit out a little URL that we can use to actually test. And I routed some of the URL stuff is a little funny. So when I first go there, it'll probably give us an error forbidden because we're going to the root of Lambda, not the prod actual endpoint. You wouldn't have this problem if you hooked up like a real live DNS, but whatever, we will. Again, lazy. There it goes, oh my goodness. Okay, there we go. So we have this endpoint. Notice at the end it says /prod. So again, we're gonna go to Zappa just really fast. This is unplanned, but if you have this prod here, so you can have prod, you can have dev, staging, all that good stuff. And by default, if you're not using the DNS stuff, which everyone will in reality use, it'll put it as /prod here in the API gateway. But yeah, let's go there. Let's do it. Okay, so we got forbidden, unsurprisingly, because we're not authenticated to any of this stuff. So we're just trying to go to the root, and it needs you to be authenticated all the time because remember, this is only mobile applications. We don't have like a proper web interface like ajc.com shows you the thing. Then we also have /API, that's all the API REST stuff. We do not have the normal webs thing. So we're gonna go straight back to log in, and we could potentially log in here. So this is, I'm not gonna do anything here because we don't really have a database hooked up. I'm gonna unhook it up later and just show you other stuff in a second. But this is actually a Django dashboard. We're on Lambda right now. This is the API gateway URL, which simply proxies to the Lambda, which serves up all this junk. And then let's see, do we have, I don't see any of the assets here. So you also can push all your assets to S3. We can check that stuff out later. So if I were to do this, it would try to connect to the database and it would start to create a session and it would just barf all over us and be like, no, you can't do that. That's impossible. So yeah, so that's that piece. And we can go check out some cow stuff. Well, first I'm gonna just undeploy it so I don't have this resource hanging out. It's basically free to do this. You could have it up all month. What happens is it hits it every 4 minutes. Last I saw, it was every 4 minutes. There's a CloudWatch thing that hits the server so that the Lambda doesn't get completely destroyed, so it stays active. So that's pretty cool. And Lambda, again, will scale up to however much demand there is. API Gateway will see, be like, oh yeah, we need to bring up like 5 more instances because this guy's like an internet sensation right this second. And it'll auto scale up and auto scale down, all that good stuff. So that's sweet. Okay, now we're all free and liberated from that. So we can safely check out some of what's happening here. So firstly, I'm just gonna go to settings. So this is a Django settings file. This is quite a bit. This is like a Django generated project that you could slim down a lot. I just didn't do that. One thing that you'd want to do when you cookie cutter this, I think I generate this in the cookie cutter. I generate a new secret key, but you might just want to look at that. If you guys actually use this, you might want to generate a different, more secret or secret key. I wouldn't trust anybody like, oh yeah, run this command and I generate a secret key for you. It's totally safe. Wink. You know, I wouldn't trust that. But if you're brave enough to trust me, go for it. But don't do that. And then here's the database stuff. So I conveniently left SQLite. If you want to do local development, I left that available. So we're going to comment out this stuff so that we can use SQLite just to run the project and see what's happening. But then at the bottom, you can see here that I configured, this is how you configure the S3 bucket. And since this lives and breathes Lambda S3, all that good stuff, and we don't actually have like a Nginx or whatever serving our static files, this is why this is important down here. So yes, just note that. That's where that comes in. That's how that's solved. And I think that's good for now. And then this is our most complicated file by far. And then the rest of the stuff is just really easy mode. Just, you know, where do we get this information? WSGI. I don't even know if this is used or necessary. It's used locally, but we don't need it here. Does manage even call WSGI? We probably don't even need that at all. Anyways, so that's that. So let's try to run it just really briefly. Simple. Show you what's what. Oh, I didn't. So now we are using a database, so we should probably run the. This is killing me. Cow hide. Let's check settings again. Did I do something stupid? I did not. Save this, I guess. X saves. All right. There we go. So this actually populates your database. You start with nothing. Well, now I guess I can just show you. So there was no this thing before, but now there's a that thing with the tables as we described per Django ORM. And now we'll create super user. And we're going to go with T time stuff because I'm going to be pretend safe this time. Password is T time. Are you going to say that's too simple? Those guys. I'm just making up a totally failed. Names are hard, you guys. Whatever, who cares? Okay, 1, 2, 3, QWE. Is that long enough? No, 8 characters. 1, 2, 3, QWE again. All right, we'll see about that. Collect static, you'll have to do for prod to actually move it to S3, but we're not really going to care about that right now. So it would just slowly copy everything to S3. It takes like a minute or two. Ain't nobody got time for that. All right, so we just made our super user. Let's see if I remember the stupid password I just made. Yeah, okay. So this is the dashboard through which people will create content. You make a menu for the API, and you can make a page. A page has a set of plugins, and it looks really terrible, and it's super unusable as it is. But you add plugins, which can be defined anywhere in pip, in PyPy. There's a plugin infrastructure, like you can actually make them separate from the project. And you can do stuff like text is actually just HTML. You can have an address, which, remember, we're all exposing all this stuff to the mobile client. So there will be a field in the REST endpoint that's like, this is an it's a list of plugins, and it says this is text or HTML, you know, interpret it how you will. This is an address, interpret it how you will. Maybe you'll put in a Google Maps thing. This is an image, interpret that how you will. So we can just say, oh, and it uses whatever that dumb thing everyone uses is TinyMC test content. Woo, hooray! We got test stuff. And then look, it doesn't even like gracefully do anything else. But you can see that there is a text plugin and it saves all this stuff. So yeah, so that's basically it. I'm not going to show, this is kind of boring. So if you add a menu, whatever, maybe. Grumble. I'll see if this works. Now you have to add a root, actually. I just added, so it's all orphaned. You have to know what you're doing. It is not safe for regular usage. So you have to make a root first with the children and say, API root question. Will that work? I haven't done this in a long time. And then you can edit that menu. And let's see if I remember. Can I just go to API? Is that a thing? Yeah, that's a thing. And you can go to menus, and here's our thingy. Yeah, I totally remember all this 100%. That was not just randomly clicking around. So the mobile client can see something like this. They can request a particular menu because maybe different mobile apps use different menus on the same CMS, question mark? I don't know. But yeah, you can request a particular menu. Like I think if I just did 2, yeah. And then it shows you the page. Each child, there's a list of pages. You can have multiple, each page can have a page as well if you want a tree hierarchy. Yeah. Yep. I think that's it. And then you just get a bunch of plugins. And then it's up to the mobile device. So yeah, that's it. Hopefully that is not too tedious. Do we have any questions as I ponder other things to potentially cover? Did I cover all my slides? Yes, all 4 of them. Whoa, I covered all 4 of them. Any questions? Here's all this cool stuff. I'll wait the obligatory like 30 seconds longer. I'm gonna see if I can find this too. Yeah, you guys should check this out. It's pretty cool. There's stuff like this for every language too. I think you guys are probably more JavaScript friendly. I think, is it Yeoman? Someone could correct me if I'm wrong. Yeoman might do this stuff for you.
Yeah, Yeoman does that.
Yeah. Yep. It's great. So you guys should check that. It's like the same kind of thing. But yeah, that's it for me. All done. Thanks, everybody.
Awesome. So if there are no questions for John, then we can move on to Dan. No questions. Okay. Well, Dan, go ahead. Take it away.
All right. Hey, everyone. Let me share my screen real quick. So I've got 2 things I want to talk about. The first is basically some changes that have gone on with our newspaper video code. Now that we're off of Brightcove completely, it was about time that we started combining and normalizing all the video code. So I just this is just going to be a high-level walkthrough of where the video code lives, and if you ever have to interact with it, just some stuff to be aware of. So there's a new Git repo called CM and right now this is a newspaper component, but there's really no reason TV and radio couldn't use it if they wanted, but you know, everything is siloed so much that they'd have to you know, kind of take the initiative on that. That's not something that I could even advocate that they do because I'm not familiar with their code. But for newspaper, we have 2 tags, and they live in the newspaper common directory. And then all the JavaScript part lives in this Git repo. So I'm not going to walk through all the code, but what I will walk through is some of the outward-facing methods, so that if you see them here and there in the free or paid code base, you know what it is and where it comes from. This is a component. It's npm installed. So if you look in the package file, you'll see this line. This is free that we're looking at here. This is package file for paid. And this is package file for 512 Tech. So all newspaper sites everywhere, all video should funnel. If it doesn't, that's an issue and we need to fix it, but it should funnel into this repo here. So some outward-facing methods. This is just a little syntactic sugar. This one I actually will show you the code for. So envato.set is a, oh, actually it lives in this file. So envato.set, like I said, it's just a just quality of life, syntactic sugar, so you don't have to repeat this boilerplate everywhere. This is the ANVP global object, and basically all it does, it just allows you to interact with it safely. So if it's not there, create it. If .common's not there, create it. .config's not there, create it. So it's just, not super necessary, but just an easy way to attach new values to common.config. One example of this is video playlists. So no video on a playlist gets a recommended list at the end of playback. So you'll see this line in freeze video playlist, and all it does, it says recom is false. So that's just one of the more simple ones. Then you have setup. This is where the videos actually get loaded. This typically lives in, I think free has it in, or paid rather has it in the site core JS file. And this will happen safely. So if there's no players in the page, it just totally skips over. It's just one if statement, so there's no performance impact. This can safely be called on any page. However, you should only call it once. I didn't put in any kind of foolproofing for calling that multiple times. I didn't think it was necessary since it's in site core. Shouldn't be needed anywhere else, but that's something to be aware of. So if you see that, this is actually when the video loading happens. Pause all does exactly what it sounds like. It will pause every single video player in the page. This is mainly useful for video playlists so that you don't have to, for example, if you go to the next video mid playback, you don't have to know what video was playing. Doesn't matter, just pause them all. There's no real performance impact pausing all of them. So this is safe as well. So even if there's no players in the page, this will not give you any headaches. And then you have one of the better additions. This is something Envato should have provided. And it turns out on their roadmap for the future, they have something similar to this planned. However, Sean and I couldn't really get a straight answer from them in terms of when these nice upgrades are coming. So I went ahead and rolled that into the CM Envato library. So you can see there's a couple of examples here. So this would just say, well, actually, let me back up. So right now, the only way to latch onto, for example, metadata loaded is to either edit the config for the player, meaning you have to be involved in its setup, or you have to be somehow inside of the .listener, which is the global Envato event callback. And geez, it's just not convenient to do either one of those things. It's a real headache. So what this does is it just exposes it. So for example, if you had something that was needed to latch onto first frame ready, you can say Envato 1 first frame ready, and then you can call that anywhere, and you don't need to be involved in the setup of the player. It's just readily available, no nonsense. And then this is, of course, the unaltered Envato event. And then the same thing for off. There's always opportunities for better documentation, but I figured this is a good starting point. However, one thing that I'm looking at noticing is missing is, so you can say off for one event, and that will disable, well, actually it'll remove all callbacks for that event, or you can say off, and that's a global reset, or a clear rather, so that'll clear all callbacks for all events. And this is, this probably won't ever be needed, but it's one of those API design things on the default checklist that you should always provide, is a way to reset your library. So anyway, so that's the JavaScript part. Again, I'm not going to dive too much into the code because it's just not the time and place for that. But I do want to show you the tag portion of this. So I've got links here to where the JPTs live. And right now, this one on top, envato.conf, is the only one used. However, that will be changing soon, hopefully. And this right here is envato.conf. And you can see, if you've ever had to work with Envato in the past, you may have remembered this conf file was like this totally nasty, huge thing. And that's all gone now, thankfully. So the only reason this exists, again, I'm not a huge fan of using these globals, but this isn't that big of a deal. So take the easy road here. But the only reason this exists is to pass in a couple of site settings. There's VAS CMS ID that's used for ad targeting, and of course the access key. And that's it for this file. The thing is, though, I'm just to talk about some stuff that hopefully is on the horizon. This whole file will go away, which means I will have to do a search for each repo and totally remove all references to it. Because everything will soon point to player.jpt. Right now, this is unused. However, once we go in, there's a couple of Brightcove cleanup tickets that hopefully will be able to work if other stuff doesn't get in the way. And what this will do is this will point every reference. So this means I'm going to go in and actually delete all the old Brightcove code and remove all of the old sort of weird, every repo has its own kind of weird way of doing player.jpt. So this will remove all of that. All of that will be gone. Everything will point to this one JPT file that lives in NP common. And the reason why Envato conf can go away is because I'm just going to drop in a little bit of JavaScript here. And basically, if it's not set, set it. The code is so simple, it's 2 lines. So if it's not set, set it. And you can call this multiple times and it won't cause any impact. And it'll just be a nice way to clean up all the code. And then there's one last thing I want to talk about before I move on to my next topic. And that is this line here. So right now there's this migration going on off of Brightcove and onto Envato. And one of the cool ways that we've been able to track issues with that migration is by using New Relic. I know that a lot of people are not super familiar with New Relic, but I definitely think that that's an issue. Everyone, especially devs, should know at least New Relic.pageAction. This is possibly the most useful developer tool that we have at our disposal, even over all of the Node stuff and the Webpack and all of that. It's far beyond that, because what this allows us to do is get real-time reporting on issues going on the page. And so one example of this is let me open up the dashboard here for you. So what this does in the code here is this will, if we can't find a video ID on this VPX object, then what this does, it comes into here and drops a little bit of JavaScript in the page that says, that essentially reports to New Relic, hey, we had a missing Envato ID. And so what that turns into on the backside is now we can track in real time not only what pages, these are all the real time. So, I mean, you can see here, this is like just seconds ago. We can see what URLs are experiencing this error. We can track it over time. This is blue line is this week, dashed yellow line is last week. So we can track errors over time, and as it gets better, we can see the progress as it gets better. And then this is just the last 24 hours. So right now, for example, the video team, I don't want to make it sound negative, but there was a slight oversight in their analysis of what videos needed to be migrated, and they missed several, as you can see, several stuff on my GC. And so this dashboard, we were able to see that. Otherwise, there's no way to do it. We would have to rely on someone, one of the site owners, or I don't know how it would have been done, but we would have had to get a report that says, hey, the video's gone. And then somebody would have had to look at the page and say, what the hell is this? I don't know what's happening. What's my name? Who am I? But with this, we can look at it and say, oh, yeah, well, here's the URL. It missed the migration ID. There's no ID for that VPX object. So we reported to Sean. Sean and Zan, the video team, looked at it. So, oh, I know what's going on. And now they've worked with Envato to get a migration going. So we're going to hopefully see these errors go down in the near future as Envato completes that migration. So that's the long and short of it. Lots of video changes, but hopefully it's all for the better. And the nice part is that this is all in production today. So you will see if you go to if you see an include for EnvadoConf, it'll point to npcom and EnvadoConf. And then, hopefully we'll get player JPT in that mix as well. So that's all I had to say about that topic. Before I move on to the next one, is there any comments?
Yeah, about that New Relic add page action command. Are there any restrictions on using that? Any rules on that? Can I just use that for any time that I want to, get a report on something?
Yeah, that's actually a good question. So the only thing I would say from a code standpoint is, even though it's not this will never be the case. This will never be false. This line here, line 35, it will never be false. But do it anyway. Just do it anyway. So that's the only thing from a code standpoint. From a sort of product standpoint, this is how events are being formatted. This is something Jesse Heedy wants, and we should definitely do that. He's considered the product owner for New Relic, I believe. So just prefix CMG underscore. And I went ahead and did another one, video. This one you don't have to. For example, ads. There's a lot of New Relic stuff for ads, and it's CMG underscore ads underscore. So that's the only thing from a product standpoint. This is, of course, there's a lot more to this API. Like if you wanted to include custom data, you can include a second argument here that's an object full of whatever data you want to include. But this is the most simple version of it.
And
does that answer your question, Mason?
Yeah. And from the New Relic side, the New Relic view, how do you come back and look up the reports on this specific action?
Yeah, so that would be something for a training session for sure. But what I can say is it's not difficult at all, and anyone can do it. What I think would be a good idea is maybe see if Jesse wants to do like just a small training session for anyone who's interested, and then he can get you some credentials to start putting together some dashboards. But yeah, I would say probably at the beginning, maybe not do it in isolation. Loop in Jesse, and Chuck is really familiar with New Relic, and just say, hey, here's some things I think would be great, and then get the conversation going from there.
Cool. That's awesome. Thanks so much.
Yep. Okay, so that's the first thing I wanted to talk about. Now I've got a second topic here, and this is more video stuff, and it is this one. And this is more video stuff that I wanted to talk about. So how do I want to do this? Okay, let me do one thing super quick though. Basically, you caught me mid thing. I just need to put this somewhere. Put this somewhere. Anywhere, it doesn't matter. Okay, we're good. So the second thing I want to talk about is an issue I found while working with Envato Video. Actually, it was during this rewrite. So essentially, this is about as the DOM is loading and scripts are trying to execute, what's the browser seeing? And what does your code see as it runs? So as you can see, this is two videos side by side, and this is just config, so I pushed this way up to the top, but this is the part that, if you look at the docs for Envato, this is how it says we need to load scripts. And that's great if all we had was just really simple, like flat page or something. But we have a lot of other considerations that we need to think about, stuff like ads and metrics, and video is just one piece that needs to fit into the larger puzzle. And to pretend that we can, set up the config up at the top, and then below we can have this nice little script at the thing in the bottom. It's just not realistic. So Victor Rocha was actually the first person to tackle video, and the way he tackled it was to roll it into the bundle and to use append child. So the documentation says to drop in a script HTML and see that works. So that's our starting point. So Victor said, well, we've got blogs and stuff. So how about if instead of drop it in as an HTML script, how about if instead I put in a little bit of code that all it does is it document create element scripts. It sets our Envato attribute source, and then it just says body append child. Well, that should work, shouldn't it? The answer is yeah. Looks like it works totally fine. Okay, so let's move on. All right, well now maybe a couple weeks, couple months down the road, oops, we have an issue. What's the issue? Well, some pages have more than one video player. Okay, well, shouldn't be a problem. Let's just do it twice. Worked once, why wouldn't it work twice? All we're doing is we create a script. We set our Envato attribute. P0 is the first player, P1 is the second. We already set all the config up here. That's beside the point here. But we're just going to repeat this twice. Maybe do it on a for loop. Victor had it on a for loop. And then we just say body append child script. Should work. Oops. Where's our second video? We saw it working before. If you rewind time, you saw that we had our script tags and it worked before, P1, P0. But this isn't working. Well, maybe it didn't get dropped into the page. Let's see what's going on here. So we have our two scripts. Those got appended to the DOM correctly. Oh, but look, our P0 was never converted into a player, only P1 was. So let me show you now. So this is at the point that I was at maybe a month ago, trying to make everyone happy with their requirements and yet staring at this problem of it only ever wants to load one of the players. So what this led me to do is actually open up Envato's code. So what I've got here is Envato's minified. This is, or rather, it's normally minified, but I have it beautified. ANVload.js. And after a long period of debugger sessions and setting logs and all of this annoying stuff, I tracked it down to this magic function. And this is actually where our div elements are converted into players. So basically where the div is converted to an iframe. And that tracked me down to this line right here, line 749. So it says get all the scripts in the page. Okay, nothing special there. And then it says get the last one. Huh, okay, so it gets the last script always. Well, that sucks. So now knowing this is all sort of set up for the for what I'm going to dive deeper into. So now this line right here is the biggest headache, possibly the biggest headache that I've ever come in contact with. And let me show you why. This says get the last one. So you would think, looking at that if we loaded this, right? So this was written first, that it would load this, and then this was written second, that it would load this. And that's not the case. And it didn't try to put P1 here. It didn't even process P0. So now let's take a look at what the what the DOM is actually seeing. Okay, so now I've got just a very simple demo page here. So I'm going to move over to a new browser tab. So all of this demo does is it loads a test script. The test script, all it does is it counts how many script tags are in the page, and it counts what the bottom script is. So you may remember this line from what we were just looking at. Get the last script in the page. And all we're doing is we're logging its ID. Okay, I've got a demo here. Here's the way Envato docs say to do it. Let's see what happens. Okay, that's expected. Script tag 0, script, 2 scripts, 3 scripts, 4 scripts. So as it goes through, this executes, then this, then this, then this. The important takeaway is that while this is executing, these others are not visible in the DOM. So if I say get the last one, I'm not getting tag 3, I'm getting tag 0. When tag 1 executes and I say get the last one, I'm not getting tag 3, I'm getting tag 1. Same for 2 and same for 3. Okay, so now what the hell was happening when we dropped in the append child stuff? I'm going to leave that in. Notice these are script tag 0. So now we're going to drop in some scripts that are append child. Let's find out what this does. Well, all this code does is this is just for scoping issues because I'm lazy. So all it does is it's a for loop, but its scope is contained here. So all we do is we create an element. We're going to load in test script. We're going to set an ID, append child, to identify this script as different from these scripts. And then we're just going to append it to the DOM. So let's find out what happens. Uh-oh. So if you look, none of our append child scripts executed. Or I'm sorry, were found. They all executed, but none of them were found. So if you look, every single one of these was the drop-in, or was the hard-coded, right? So let's look at exactly what was going on. When the first script executed, it saw six scripts. So we know we have an extra one here, but it found script tag 0. So if you count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that means when script tag 0 was executing, these were already written to the DOM. However, they didn't execute. And that's exactly what happens. By the way, a little spoiler alert for the end of this. The point is when you append child, it will add it to the DOM, but this won't execute. So these were appended, 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 appended. This is now executed. When this executes, it counts 6 scripts, and the bottom one is tag 0. Next, it counts 7 scripts, and the bottom tag is tag 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. The same for 2. Same for 3. Now, we're going to execute append child 1. So we're going to jump all the way from the bottom back up to the top. This will execute. And as you can see, we're going to get 9 scripts total because that's the total from here to here. 1 to this is 9 scripts in total. However, when append child 0 executes, the bottom is script tag 3. So what that means is that if in here this was an Envato script and it said get the last one, and even though this one says, hey, I'm P0 and I want to run the player P0, it's not going to do that. It's going to go to the bottom one and load P1, which is why we were missing a player. Okay, so what do you do about that? Because the end goal, as you saw, was to get everything contained into an installable module that we can roll into our bundle. Well, according to what we've just seen, it doesn't seem possible. But let's play around. Maybe it is. Okay, so we've already seen those. All right, so what about ins 4? Meaning, what if we dump it at a point way higher in the page, right? Maybe it's a verticalness issue. So if we put it way up in the page, right? If we put it way up here above everything, maybe then it'll execute before. So we're gonna, what this does is this says get anchor and insert the script inside of this anchor. The anchor is above everything else. So let's find out if this is a vertical issue. So we can see that it did inject our insert before scripts way up high in the page. Uh-oh, nothing changed. Okay, that sucks. So maybe doc write. Let's find out what this does. So if we know it's not a vertical issue, then maybe it's a loading issue. And it's the fact that append child and insert before seem to latch onto doc complete. So let's do doc write and find out if it has the same problems. So you can see as the DOM was loading, we were writing our scripts, doc write 1, 2, 0, 1, 2, 3, and then we have our normal script includes. Ah, there it is. That's what we were looking for. So you can see as doc write 0 was executing, we had 2 scripts, which is what we want to see. That means if it was a video player, it would find the correct player. Same here, and to go down. So I don't want to dwell on the theatrics too much here. So I'm just going to cut to the chase. Basically, append child will insert into the DOM, however, it will not execute your script. Doc write is a different beast. Now, I am not an advocate of doc write. However, there's a time and a place to use every tool available, as long as it's a very intelligent use of it and not a careless sort of blanket approach. So as you can see, this is the only way that we can get Envato as an installable bundle, is the whole point of this. The other option is to split it out into the mess of JPT template includes that our metrics and ad systems are currently set up as. And yeah, I don't think I had a ton more to say. I feel like there was one more point that I wanted to make, but yeah, I think that pretty much sums it up. So if you're ever working on something and it boils down to one of these, where is it? One of these get the last script in the page sort of deals, and it's not working quite how you are expecting it, you're not sure what's going on, or maybe you're using a dot append and the scripts seem to be executing out of order. Well, they probably are, and that's why. So unfortunately, we can say we have a video vendor that relies on sort of hacky, not so good code, but it's the only vendor that we're given to work with. So you have to live within your restrictions. So yeah, that's it. I don't expect a whole lot of comments or questions. So, but yeah, if there are, then I'm more than happy to answer.
Have you looked at the metrics loading yet? And do you have an initial plan of attack?
Do you mean sort of the general design architecture of all the metrics code? Is that what you mean?
Not as much, because I think that what you've been doing and what we've been doing has been probably a kind of similar goal. I mean, like how the script is loading and some of the content in the script. So it listens for things like document load and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I'm not super sure I follow what you're asking. Is there a specific bug that you're referring to?
No, no bug. I didn't know if you were going through and refactoring everything for, well, both performance reasons and just to have it as a module for a lot of other good reasons.
Oh, I see. No, no, I'm not refactoring anything for metrics, but I know that Isaac Ray, that's one of the goals that he has for this year, is to sort of start the cleanup effort, and I think ideally that would be the case where both metrics and ads are installable. And although what I can say is that even the grander design, even pan out even farther, is to get these JPTs inside the Git repo as well. But that's part of a way larger effort related to the build process. But yeah, it would be great to get everything as modules and not have all these sort of scattered, sporadic template includes all over the place.
Yeah, sounds good. Thanks.
Yep.
And thanks for cleaning up that. I know there's a tremendous amount of redundant stuff, so thanks for that.
Well, cool. Thanks so much to John and Dan. And we had a full house today, which is great. And I guess that's it. We make these 2 weeks, so bi-weekly. So hopefully we'll have more people presenting in 2 weeks. And John and Dan, you're always welcome to do more presentations. No one's going to stop you because there's always great information that you guys share. So thanks so much, and everybody have a great weekend.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.